Okay, well, last week, if you were here or you watched online, we talked about how believers need to bring forth the fruit of the Spirit. We didn't say the fruits of the Spirit. Don't say the fruits of the Spirit. There's only one fruit, and it's Messiah-likeness. Okay? And love appears first, and it's in a pecking order. Just like the gifts are in a pecking order. You notice what's first in the gifts? Wisdom. You know what's last in the gifts? Tongues. You know why? Because you could fake tongues, but you can't fake wisdom. Just try it. Oh, some of you have. Okay. By the way, parents, I know your kids aren't here, but thank you. Every kid that hugged me, and there was more that hugged me today than they ever hugged me, but they usually all hug me. It was very healing. Very healing. I just feel healed. So that was really nice of them. Love appears first because it's the greatest quality, in that it's a quality that most clearly reflects who God is. And so let's look at something that you're all too familiar with, a couple of verses from Deuteronomy 6. This is the Shema, which, of course, if you're here, you're familiar with it. It says, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, and then the translation, Hear Israel, Adonai our God, Adonai is one. And you are to love Adonai with all your heart, all your being, and all your resources. David Stern, he's a scholar. He changed this a little bit with the heart and being. It's heart, soul, mind, and strength. But it basically, essentially says exactly the same thing. If you look up those words, you'll see in the Hebrew. All right, Judaism has no catechism. Any recovering Catholics? So you know what catechism is, right? All right, sure you do. But basically, for those who don't know, it's just a summary of religious principles. Every denomination has some religious principles about it that distinguish it from other religions, other denominations. Judaism has no catechism, but the Shema is closest to being Judaism's credo. Credo, a creed, a formula of belief. That's what it means. Okay, so in 6 Hebrew words, just 6 words, it sums up Judaism's belief in monotheism, which, by the way, was a gift to the world, okay? Every single solitary Christian who believes in monotheism believes because the Jews handed it off to them, okay? Prior to Jews, there were just polytheists, which there still are a lot of polytheists around the world. And the rejection of all idols, and we went over that a couple of weeks ago, right? We talked about idols. They're not just totem poles or carved. We have a lot of idols in our hearts, okay? And our house, for that matter. What this is saying is we are to love God with all of us. It's not a part-time love, okay? It's not Sunday or Saturday or at Wednesday night or Tuesday morning, or whatever you get together. It's not part-time. It's full-time. And for all intent and purposes, these very same words are repeated in the Gospels. They're repeated in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, okay, by none other than Yeshua himself. And of course, if you call yourself a believer, I know people don't like to call themselves Christians. I don't like to call myself a Christian, personally, because it's a long story, but I'm a Jew. And I could remember as far back as 62 years I've been Jewish. And when I accepted Yeshua, I didn't stop being Jewish. I didn't know I had to. Now, if you ask a Christian today, they would tell you that I have to, and I'd be like, no. No, in fact, if you go back to the first century, it was Cornelius that had to become more Jewish, not Kepha who had to become more Gentile. I don't care what seminary you went to. That's just the truth, man. Get with the program. Go back to the first century, man. Stop living in like the 20th century. That's not where it started. Go to the original, where it originated. Okay? That's its roots. That's important. So when you call yourself a believer, you're supposed to follow Yeshua's teachings. And when they asked him, look, there's 613 commandments. Okay, 613. It's not a ton, but it's a lot. And they just asked him, like, so, you're a great rabbi, you're a great teacher, you're obviously very anointed. Is there a pecking order to this stuff? Like, what's the most important commandment? So let's take a look at Mark 12:30. How could anybody not, come on, guys. Come on. You read this forever. It is the Gospels. How did you not see this as the Shema? How did you vacuum out everything Jewish when he's giving you the Shema? This is a Jewish rabbi with Jewish students in a Jewish place, giving you a Jewish credo, and you became a Gentile? Like, how did you do that? How were you so... How did you become such an automatron? Listen, it's right in what you were reading. It says, study to show yourself approved. This is the Shema. This guy's given them the Shema. I mean, the Shema you say twice in the morning, at Shachrit, at night. You're supposed to say the Shema on your deathbed if you're a Jew. Hundreds of thousands of Jewish martyrs sung the Shema as they were dying. Rabbi Akiva, as they were burning him at the stake, sung the Shema in 135 AD. When the Romans were burning him, they said, look, he's calling on us. He's a sorcerer. And somebody said, he's not a sorcerer. He's singing the Shema. And this is what Akiva said. All my life, 4 times a day, I sung the Shema. Today, I fulfill it. That's as deep as it gets today, guys. If you don't get that, your wood is so wet, there's no way I can light it up for you. The Shema, this sums up this right here in Mark 12:30. And you are to love Adonai your God. I mean, where did you see the disconnect? The Old Testament. Now this is the new. Do I look like Vanna White? The New Improved Testament. It's the same thing. You are to love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your understanding, with all your strength, all. This sums up man's responsibility as a believer to God. God is to have supreme place in our life. No other love is allowed to rival our love for God. For our Spanish-speaking people, he is numero uno. If there's a dos or a tres, that's fine. But he's numero uno. You follow? I mean, this is challenging stuff. Yeshua was very challenging. I don't know what Yeshua people have today. I don't know what Yeshua they're preaching. I don't know who they're preaching. It's another Yeshua. It's another Messiah. It's another Messiah. It's not the same biblical Messiah. It is not the same Messiah. Look at Luke 14:26. I'll prove it to you. One verse. If anyone comes to me, what's he saying? Comes to me, follows me. You want to call yourself a Christian? That's what it means. To follow, to come after. To submit to, if you will. You want me to be your rabbi? You want me to be your Lord? You want me to be your Messiah? Okay, here's the deal. If you don't hate your father and mother or wife and children, your brothers and sisters, yes, your own life, then forget it. How do you read it? It's English. It's basic words. A lot of one-syllable words. I know some of you are real smart. You don't have to put on your thinking cap. You don't need a thesaurus or a dictionary. This is straight up, right in your face. Now, some literal person, because, there are people that take everything literal, no matter what. That's why I can't live here, because, I'm sarcastic and it doesn't work. So they'll go, wait a minute, did Yeshua really want us to hate our parents? Seriously? How long you been a believer? Why would you even say that? It's blasphemous to say it. Why would you think it? It's amazing. Amazing. Yeshua is saying that he demands. He's not asking. He's not doing the 21st century pastor thing. I just want to challenge you. Screw challenge you. I'm not challenging you. Yeshua's not challenging you. It's not a challenge. I dare you to obey me. He's Lord. He's commanding it. He's driving the ship, man. He demands. He's saying, I demand. He's saying, I demand. Demand. I must have first place. For the true disciple, you ready? It's Yeshua before family. Yep. Yep, sweet pea, I know you're the mother of the year. You and about 5 million other women. It's Yeshua before family. It's Yeshua before country. Soldier, Yeshua before country. It's for king and country. King comes first. Yeshua before life itself. It's not only that we must love our relatives less. It's not saying don't love your relatives. What are you, crazy? Honor your mother and father. That would be tough enough. But he's saying we got to hate our own life too. That's a tough one today. Because, man, if it ain't about me, it ain't about no one. Life will go on without you, pal. You won't even be missed hardly. But pull Yeshua out of the mix for a minute and this thing falls apart. Who is the king of pop? Don't act like you don't know. Don't act all holy. The king of rock, the king of soul. Where are they? And what happened? What happened when they died? Did things stop? But if the king of kings goes off the throne for a second, I'm not saying they weren't good people. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying prioritize this thing, man. Instead of asking how every action will affect ourselves and our lives, we must ask how every action will affect God and His glory. Considerations of personal comfort and safety must take a back seat. Look, kid, you're watching. I know your dad. We came to faith at the same time. And for whatever reason, he had his struggles. He had his fair share. And he went on a different path, but man, he came back, and he came back hard. And he was a believer, legit in every sense of the word. Know that about your father. Personal comfort and safety take a back seat to the task of glorifying God and making His Son known. Yeshua's words here, guys, are absolute. There can be no half-hearted believers. Then he goes on in his second commandment, Mark 12:31. Yes, love God with everything. And then he says, you ought to love your neighbors yourself. This is a tough one for people. There are a lot of believers, they have Mark 12:30 down pat. The next verse, man. I love God, I love God. Ugh. These are the two, man. This sums it all up. So the life that counts, according to Yeshua, even if I wasn't a believer, I could read this and tell you this. The life that really counts is concerned first with God and then with others. We're to love God more than ourselves and love everyone else like ourselves. God is important and people are important, period. Material things are not even mentioned. But love is not just some vague love that denies truth and tolerates all things. If you think I'm preaching anything goes, you're out of your mind. That's not what I'm preaching. But neither is love content to judge things by their outward appearances. You have to be careful. We have to be careful not to forsake love for the sake of judging outward forms rather than the true heart of the person. You have enough trouble knowing your own heart. Your own heart confuses you. Where do you get off knowing the heart of another person? Without even talking to them, without even getting to know them. 40 years I know this guy. I know him. You're going to make a call? Nobody has that discernment. God drops that on you every now and then. But you do not have a crystal ball. Look at 1 Samuel 16. You know this well. If you don't, you should. Obviously, Shmuel is a prophet, a legit prophet. I'll prove it to you right here. You might see something that you never saw. Chances are. He's sending Shmuel on a road trip to anoint a new king. Adonai said to Shmuel, which means one who hears God, by the way, how much longer are you going to go on grieving for Shaul, now that I've rejected him as king over Israel? Fill your horn with oil and set out. I will send you to Yishai the Bethlehemi, Jesse the Bethlehemite, because I have chosen myself a king from among his sons. Shmuel said, how can I go? If Shaul hears of it, he will have me killed. It's a legitimate concern, right? If you knew you were on the way to get killed, you might say the same thing. Adonai said, take a female cow with you and say, I have come to sacrifice to Adonai. Summon Yishai to the sacrifice. I will tell you what to do, and you are to anoint for me the person I point out to you. So God told Samuel bluntly, I don't care how close you are to him, I've rejected him. Saul's done. I've chosen another man to rule over Israel. And because Israel's mine, it's my choice to make. Nobody can refute it. Now, was God telling Samuel to lie? Because some people read that and see that. This looks like deception. Do you see it? Do you see the possibility of it? Have you lost your mind again? God's going to tell him to lie? No. No. God was not telling Samuel to lie. The anointing of the new king was a secret affair. Secrecy is not the same as deceit. If I tell my kids something that they're not supposed to tell anybody else, that's not a lie. It's not deceit. Let's continue on. Shmuel did what Adonai said because he was a legit man of God. And he arrived at Bethlehem. The leaders of the city came trembling to meet him. Did you see it? Today, when prophets come, nobody trembles because they're not prophets. If they were prophets, the people would tremble. Why? Because the prophets always had the same message. You're off course. You better return to God. The judgment's coming. Today, the prophets tell you what you want to hear so they can get a good collection. And the better the story, the better the collection. Guys, I could have made a sick, ridiculous living going around the country to churches and telling them how this poor, lost Orthodox Jew became a Christian. Yeah, I'm telling you, they would have paid big for that. But then I tell them that story. I started telling that story. People invite me to want to hear the story. And then when I said, and then I found out reading Matthew 1:1, I'm reading this Jewish genealogy, and it was so Jewish that I realized I didn't have to give up being Jewish because Jesus didn't either. Get the hook. Get him off the stage. Get him off. And then I wasn't invited anywhere anymore. I didn't care about the stupid offering. I cared about the truth. God's my provider. Always had, always will. So they're trembling. He's a prophet. And they're saying, are you coming in peace? Look at this, guys. Today they applaud. Oh, look who's here. Get him a Perrier. He answered, in peace. I've come to sacrifice to Adonai. Consecrate yourselves. Get yourselves right. Just don't show up at Beth Yeshua. Don't just show up. We don't have some spiritual shower. Consecrate yourselves and come with me to the sacrifice. He consecrated Yishai and his sons and summoned them to the sacrifice. When they had come, he looked at Eliab, the first son. What do you think the first son looked like, the firstborn? Yeah, a little Joselito, you know. Strong, probably good looking. Right? So he's like, I got him. We're done. Let's eat. Let me get out of here. I want to get out of here before Saul finds out. Right? He's in a rush. He's believing God to an extent, but, you know, everybody believes God to an extent. Lord, I believe. Help me with my unbelief. So he wants to get out of there. Guys, you don't read like that, right? You read it and you go, I got to memorize this. Has to be Adonai's anointed one. 1 Samuel 16. I'm not kidding around, man. I'm not making fun. That's not the way to read the Bible. We went over this, right? Put yourself in the story. Feel it. These are regular people just like you. Regular people doing a regular life. Experiencing it just like you. But if you don't feel it, you won't see it. Adonai said, nope. Nope. And what does he say right away? Why are you paying attention to how he looks, how tall he is? Who cares? You think you got to be like tall to be a king? When I was first a rabbi, people say you don't look like a rabbi. I say, you think rabbis start when they're 80? Because they saw one rabbi. They saw like an 80-year-old rabbi somewhere and fiddle on the roof. And they're like, you don't look like a rabbi. How does a rabbi look? You don't look like a Jew. How does a Jew look? You want me to tell you what you look like with those, what you're saying right now? Crazy. You don't look Jewish. There's Jews in China. How am I supposed to look? 2005, we found a bunch of Jews in Kaifeng. How'd they look? They look like Chinese people. But Adonai said to Shmuel, don't pay attention to how he looks, how tall he is. I've rejected him. And here's the message. Adonai doesn't see the way humans do. Humans look at the outward appearance. But Adonai looks at the heart. So Samuel looks over the men one by one, confident that the next king was before him, but none was the Lord's choice. Samuel should have actually learned from his experience with Saul that the outward man is not nearly as important as the inner man. Now, I've kind of shared this with you guys before, like in a drive-by, about exterior, but I've mentioned this over the years. I mean, it's part of my fiber, you know? For me, it's all about internal relational reality, not external religious rituals. It's always been that way from the time I met the Lord. It was that way, and it's always will be that way. People do judge by looks and dress and outward appearances, correct? Today, the mainstream media encourages this faulty outlook by using glamorous people in advertisements, television, and printed material. Do you realize, like, to get a job as a weather person, why do you have to look like a Victoria's Secret model? I just want you to tell me the barometric pressure. I don't give a crap what you look like. But if you're a brilliant meteorologist, you won't get a job. Thank God doctors could still be ugly, huh? I'm only kidding. We have a couple of doctors here. You know I love you. Shut up. Don't make a federal case over everything. God. Because if you do, I'll just say, see, you got offended, which means you're not a strong believer. You're going to come out losing. You're not going to win. But it's pathetic. I remember in 1980, a show 60 Minutes. They took a woman who was pleasingly plump and like a model, and they put them in the same outfit and the same car in a different spot on the highway. Do you know how many people stopped for the model? It was like accident, and nobody stopped for the other. And even as a secular person, I knew in my heart, that is so wrong. Let me tell you a story. I was in the gym. I don't know if I told you this story, so this might be for the first time. And who comes in? Jean-Claude Van Damme. You know him? I mean, not only is he like a sick martial artist, okay? He was a legit champion, a world champion. He wasn't just a, showman. But the guy was as man-pretty as anybody I've ever seen. He was magnificent. His jaw structure, and his wife was looking for a trainer. So you can imagine what he's married to, right? We know how this works, right? We know how the system works, right? We know how it works, right? Okay. So she comes in, and she just had a lousy attitude. And the guys in the gym were like, so she was recommended to me, so she comes over to me, and she just had a lousy attitude. And so she went on the stair climb, and I went up to her, and I said something to her, and she did not say something nice to me. I said, okay. I walked away. When she was done, she came over to me, and she said, so we ready to train? I said, who do you think you are? And a friend of mine was like, you're out of your mind. I'll train. Like, he wasn't even a trainer, but he goes, I'll train her. I was like, you think your stinking $20 is more important than her? I'd rather, in fact, I'll train her this hour for free over you. I promise you I did this. You know I did this. You know me. You've been around me long enough to know that's my dad. And she said, well, I'm sorry, I have jet lag. I go, you're so used to, I get it. I see what you look like. You're so used to everybody opening the doors. I'm not opening the door for you. And then she simmered down because nobody talks to people like that, right? They talk to them like that behind their back, never to them. All I could say is, I don't know if you're watching, but she was the most physically fit person because I legitimately tried to kill her and I could not. I legitimately I wanted to see, can I give this individual a heart attack? And I go, she got what was coming to her. But she lasted the workout. It was unbelievable. I gave her no rest. I told her, you can't drink water. Ordinary looking people, and I put it in quotes because that term is up for grabs, right? Ordinary looking people, they don't seem as satisfactory as they should today. It's insane. I mean, sportscasters. Like, are you kidding me? Whatever happened to the ugly sportscasters that used to actually play the sport? Look, God focuses on how people look on the inside, period. Okay? It's all right to take care of your appearance and to look presentable. It's okay. Don't get me wrong. If you haven't showered for a week, you might want to hit the end before you come here. Okay? Just saying. But God would rather see us work on becoming drop-dead gorgeous on the inside. You know who I'm talking about, right? The kind of person that talks to God all the time, loves to spend time in the Lord's Word, always reading their Bible, loves to spend time in God's presence, will do anything to hear a word from God. They're seeking God always for His will for their lives and actively looking for opportunities to bless anyone and everyone. That's drop dead gorgeous. This is the attractive one. For it's more about being good than looking good. I'll give you one other scripture. There's not a lot here today. Proverbs 31:30. I didn't think I'd have much today. You know this, right? We say this over our wives at Shabbat dinner every Shabbat. My kids hear it all the time. But charm can lie, beauty can vanish. But a woman who fears, but it's like, listen, charm. When people are charming, it's usually deceptive. A charming person usually is using it to deceive and to get what they want. beauty it's fleeting. It's fleeting, man. Some of you are holding on, like still thinking. Trying so hard, it's like music to your ears when somebody says, how old are you? I can't believe it. First of all, most of the time they're lying to you. Just putting that out there. Now, you know I'm not advocating don't exercise. Exercise. But don't stare in the mirror. I mean, look at yourself. You just saw yourself like a few hours ago. You don't remember what you look like? But a woman who fears the Lord, that's who God praises. God, you think God go, oh my gosh, she looks amazing. Just amazing. Absolutely stunning. No. I know Bernadette was, when I first met her, like a couple of weeks, your mother won Miss Yonkers, which was the 4th largest city in New York, and then I had to take it to the Miss New York State. And she found a cat, and I had to bring the dopey cat with us to this hotel. So 18 years old, if she won this, she came in second, I think. If she won this, she would have been in the Miss USA. Somebody just pulled her to go in. She wasn't even interested in beauty contests. But I brought the cat, and we went to this hotel, and I didn't have a cat carrier. I wasn't going to go out and spend money on a cat carrier. I just threw him in a bag. So the cleaning lady came in, and she sees the bag moving. She goes, adios mio. The bag is moving. I said, no, it's not moving. I just kicked the bag out of the way. You hear, yeah. You hear the cat. I don't even like cats. Like, yeah. Just kicked him behind the bed. Mommy's watching. You remember he got out of the hotel room and I had to find him in the snow up at Saratoga Springs? And then my luck, the cat lives 18 years. They're like the oldest cat in history. Lives 18 years. I don't even like the cat. She found him. Said, you got to take him in. 18 years. It had a stroke when he was 18. I bring him to a vet, and the vet says, well, we could put him up on some IVs. Put the cat up on IVs? I said, how much is that going to cost? He goes, well, initially it's $500. That's all I heard. I looked around because, you know, there's animal lovers by me in the veterinarian's office. I look around and I just whispered to him. I go, what's it cost to put him down? He's like, what? I said, what's the cost to put him down? He's got a stroke. Let him go. Seriously? It's a cat. It's a cat. Beauty fades with age. So if you're more concerned with outer appearance, you will become unhappy at some point. The wrinkles will come, and the number on the scale will go up, and you'll be miserable. Look, I'm just telling you flat out, if you stand two girls next to each other, one is Miss Teen USA, and the other one is average looking, but she loves the Lord more than anything, she's the beautiful one in God's eyes. I'm not saying it's a sin to be whatever beautiful. I'm not saying that. You know I'm not saying that. Okay? You'll see what I'm saying in a minute because I saw it in the Bible. And when I saw it, it was astounding to me. It's probably going to be more astounding to me because you'll be like, what's so astounding about that? It's astounding because it's only like one verse in the whole Bible like this. And it just blew me away. You ready? You sure? Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Finishing up. My lunch bell is going off. Look at Exodus 30, 17 to 18. Ask my kids if they would have been like that when I was reading the Bible with them. We almost done, Dad? Ask them. After service, ask them what I would have said. Okay, 30, 17 through 18. Adonai said to Moshe, you ought to make a basin of bronze. This is very serious. The tabernacle is very serious. It's a replica of the tabernacle in heaven. It's the way to approach God. There's a certain way to approach him from the outer courtyard into the Holy of Holies. There's a way you got to go through the altar of sacrifice, washing your hands of the guilt, going into the Holy of Holies, being thirsting and hungering, the bread and the oil before you get into God's presence to be a peacemaker. There's a way to approach God. Make no mistake. It's serious. Adonai said to Moshe, you ought to make a basin of bronze with a base of bronze for washing. Place it between the tent and the altar of sacrifice, and then the tent. When you hear the tent of meeting, that's not the tabernacle. The tabernacle is the whole thing. The tent is just the holy place in the Holy of Holies. Okay? This is like the tent. So he places this basin, and he's very serious about it. He's giving very serious directions. The bronze basin was for the priests. They had to wash themselves before serving either in the tent of meeting or at the altar of burnt offering. Either way, even though it's after the altar, they had to wash before they served. Any priest who handled holy things before washing, death sentence. Death sentence. This should be a solemn reminder that we must be spiritually and morally clean on the inside. No matter how dirty you are, this isn't going to work. It didn't even stop COVID. It's not going to stop unholiness. It's not going to work no matter how much you wash, no matter how much you wash on the outside, no matter how pretty you look like on the outside. It's about the inside. It's about being spiritually and morally clean. Now look at this verse. This is the verse that got me. 38:8. You won't see another verse like it in the Bible. He made the basin of bronze, right? He made it with its base of bronze from the mirrors. You get it? Or do I need to talk about it? I'll talk about it because what the heck? I had nothing else to do. He made the base of bronze from the mirrors of the women. Who are they? We don't know who they are, but they were these women serving at the entrance of the tent of meeting. Why did they have mirrors? They got this stuff out of Egypt, so it was high polished, high quality mirrors. Why did they have mirrors with them? I mean, they're kind of like greeters. I get it, But mirrors? A mirror, the Hebrew word is marah. You can look it up. And it means mirror, something you see a reflection. But it also could mean figuratively a mode of revelation. So what is the revelation here, Greg? What are you trying to say, God? I'm not sure exactly what he's trying to say, but I have a pretty good idea. Maybe these women were overly focused on their exterior. Could it be? As they're serving in the tent of meeting in a holy place. So the question I have is, do we put more time and effort into being pretty on the outside or on the inside? We're supposed to reflect God's glory. We were made in his image. And when he looks at us, he should see his reflection. Like the moon doesn't have its own light. It reflects the sun's light. We should reflect the sun, S-O-N's light. But since God is spirit, what are you supposed to look like? The pictures of Yeshua you see in every church, he didn't have long hair. Okay? No first century Jewish man had long hair like that. And then somebody goes, I had somebody go like this thing. Well, he was a Nazarite. And Nazarites take vows to not cut their hair. He was a Nazarite? What Bible are you reading? He was from Nazareth, genius. He wasn't a Nazarite. He never took a Nazarite vow. What is there a secret Bible you're reading? And anyway, my Bible says in Isaiah 53, he was nothing to look at. It says he was nothing to look at. What does that mean? He was nothing to look at. He had nothing to attract us to him exterior-wise. That's what it means, right? And everybody tells me, oh, Jesus laughed all the time. Really? I don't see it. In fact, my Bible says he was a man of sorrows. A man of sorrows doesn't sound like he's laughing all the time. What's so funny? I mean, I'm not saying we shouldn't laugh. Laughter is good medicine. I like to laugh. But I cry as much as I laugh, if not more. I'm just putting that out there. Just in case you think, oh, this is happy-go-lucky idiot who's got it made. Yeah, you keep thinking that. Have fun with that. So if God is spirit, which he is, right? What are we supposed to look like? And I think the Bible gives a fantastic definition in Exodus. Moshe, who spoke to God face to face, right? Crazy intimate relationship, face to face. And then later on in his relationship with him, right before they're ready to go into the promised land, he says, show me your glory. Like, I think he saw his glory a lot, but he loved him so much, he just needed to see it. And so God says, I will. I will. And what do we see? Exodus 34, 5, 6. This is God's glory, guys. Adonai descended in the clouds, stood with him there, and pronounced the name of Adonai. Adonai passed before him and proclaimed, Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. Adonai is God. Now, I'm sorry, I can't see it without saying something, sorry. There are these sacred names out there. Do you know who you are? Okay, it's Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. There are no vowels. So if you want to say Yahweh, knock yourself out, but that's not what it says. It's purposely there without vowels, so you can't pronounce it, because if you pronounce it, then you put a name on God. Once you name God, you limit God. My license plate is Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. I can't believe nobody ever got it. But I get to witness with that thing like crazy. Is that you and your wife's initials? Not exactly. How much time do you have? It's fantastic. It's a fantastic witnessing tool. I just can't believe when I went to get it, I was like, nobody has this in Georgia? Wow, the Bible Belt? But lo and behold, they didn't. And the neat thing is, you see the acronym? YHVH? What was hanging over Yeshua's head? Yeshua, HaMashiach, V'melech, HaYehudim. Jesus the Messiah, the King of the Jews. Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. Anyway, let's go on. I know you like it. Ooh, let's go on. That wasn't the message. We don't want to get off course. Who put this in red? Now you're going to make me talk about it. Okay, merciful and compassionate. Slow to anger, rich and good. That's his glory? It wasn't when he blows stuff up? It's not his creative power? Ex nihilo, out of nothing, as they say in Latin? That's his glory? Yep. That's his glory, and that's what we're supposed to look like. Merciful and compassionate. That means being charitable, being forgiving, being generous, and being lenient. Does that describe you? Charitable, forgiving, giving and forgiving. Generous, and lenient, not quick to judge, especially not by outward appearances. Compassion is something deep. It's having sympathy and pity towards others. It's being moved in your gut. If you look the word up, rachem, it's moved in your gut, in your bowels, in your stomach. Moved, and not moved to go, oh, I feel bad for you, but it's bigger than that. It's moved to do something about it. Moved by the suffering and distress and the misfortune of another, and thereby giving relief and aid. I like to think it is empathetic. Are you familiar with empathy? I don't know. It's a gift, and it could be a curse in a sense if it takes, because it gets me all the time. Empathy. Empathy is when you can identify with. You vicariously experience it. If I see somebody's mother hurting, then it's my mom. If I see somebody's wife, it's Bernadette. Kids, it's Max. It's crazy. I can feel it. And sometimes I feel it. It's weird. It's like, why am I feeling this more than you are? This is insane. You can vicariously experience the feelings and thoughts and attitudes of another. When you do that, you have no choice but to help. There's no way around it. Second aspect about what God looks like, he's slow to anger. Describe you? This is bearing provocation. It's bearing annoyance. It's bearing misfortune. It's bearing delay. You know, when you don't get it right away. It's bearing hardship. It's bearing pain with endurance and calm. Not like, no, that's not bearing. Look, do you see how challenging this is? I come from a place that is 12 miles by 2. 12 by 2. My son just visited a friend, 2,500 acres. 12 miles by 2. Some of you go, You know, the people in New York City, they're a little aggressive. Moron. It's an island 12 by 2 with 5 million people any given day. Gilligan and the skipper couldn't get along, and it was just 2 of them on a much bigger island. Of course it's going to be aggressive. Did you ever drive in that? It's gridlock all the time. You can't even get in a cab because it's just going click, 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 click. Waiting time. It's not distance. They figured it out. They said, let's get them on waiting time. Click, 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 click. It's hard. This was a hard lesson for me. The Bible calls it long-suffering. Why? Because it's suffering long. I call it just not. Yeah? 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 I like how you didn't even move off the wall, Ronnie. Good one. He's just going. Well, we know your index finger works, and the other moron gives you a high five. Way to go. You want to know why we're the laughing stock of Messianic Judaism, son? It's not on me. Look, I don't know what goes on in this town, but when somebody is looking down at their phone and they're in the vehicle in front of me and the light turns green, I've lived here 18 years. I've never heard a horn go off. Why do you think God made the horn? He didn't make the horn so when a kid's running out in front of you, you beep the horn, you're going to run the kid over. He made the horn for the moron who's looking at his phone instead of the light. And they say, Rabbi, that's rude to beep the horn. I think it's rude to look at your text when you should be looking at the road. I think that's more rude. So I'm going to be a little less rude by going, get out of the way. Instead, you don't beep your horn, but you talk about him for days. I just beep the horn so I don't have to talk about him. It's nothing personal. Go. Just go. And rich in grace and truth, which is foundational. It's being good, kind, and loving, all the while being faithful, reliable, and sure. It's bestowing favor without compromising what you know to be true. It's the way Yeshua lived. He underwrote things in love, but he never compromised the truth. When Alex passed away, the first thing his wife sent to me, first thing, text, he loved you so much because you never compromised the truth with him. And that got him on track every time. The truth is love. If you have a friend that's blowing smoke up your butt, they're not your friend. If that's what you want in a friendship, have at it. I don't have friendships like that. Bernadette and I don't conduct ourselves like that. My kids and I don't conduct ourselves like that. We're able to talk and be real and be genuine and be honest with our feelings. That's love. Now, of course, you could take it to the extreme and be mean-spirited. That's not what I'm talking about here. You know I'm not. In the end, what we are is more important than anything we will ever say or do. Last 2 verses, and we're out ski. Romans, quintessential theological book, toward the end, Romans 14, 7 and 8. It says, for none of us lives only in relation to himself, and none of us dies in relation to himself. For if we live in relation to the Lord. And if we die in relation to the Lord. So whether we live or die, we belong to the Lord. A believer's life is not his own. The lordship of Yeshua must enter every aspect of our lives. Obviously, nobody does this, including yours truly, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't give it a best shot. This is challenging. It doesn't mean we're disqualified if we don't do it 100%. It doesn't. God doesn't act like that. I'm just saying this is the bar. The bar is high. I get it. It's high for you. It's high for me. But if we don't raise the bar, we'll never press on. We'll all fall short. But if the bar is this high and we fall short, we're here. If the bar is this high and we fall short, we're here. That's all I'm saying. Am I pushy? Ask my kids. Ask if Alex was here, he'd tell you, he pushed me, but he pushed me right back to the Lord. Man, I'm going to miss you, Dad. I'm so going to miss him. So crazy. Man, he was a good friend. They don't come like him, man. Your father was aces. Trust me, I knew his heart real well. Although it's true that what we say and do affects others, this is not the message here. The Apostle Paul is emphasizing that the Lord should be the goal of our lives. Everything we do in life is subject to Yeshua's review and approval. You know what the right thing is to do. You know. But if you ever wonder, look to the sky and see if Yeshua is going like this or like this. Because there's no this. There's no neutrality. Even in death, we look to glorify God as we go to be with him. Besides the death of my buddy, there was another great man of God like A.W. Tozer in the 20th century. His name was Leonard Ravenhill. He was actually incredibly close to Tozer. He was an evangelist and an author from England, and he was born in 1907. His ministry focus was on prayer and revival, and he challenged Western Christianity, which is the United States, challenged them to emulate the believers in the first century in the book of Acts. That was his challenge. Ravenhill died in 1994 and was buried in Garden Valley, Texas, at a place called Garden Valley Cemetery. The epitaph on his tombstone gives you your take-home message today. Are the things you are living for worth Christ dying for? Let's stand together. Appreciate your prayers for tomorrow. I've got to try to get there. It's sketchy. A lot of connections and stuff, so I'm just hoping everything goes well because, we live in a society, I got to tell you, where, when I was a kid, somebody died in the neighborhood, everybody came. Even people that didn't know the guy too well. You know why? It was called paying respects. Today, it's inconvenient. Could you imagine that? I was supposed to take Lily and a friend to Florida. Well, Florida's going to be there. My friend only going to die once. Think about it, guys. Don't live cheap. Don't. It's fleeting. Here today, gone tomorrow. The good news is my friend's only going to die once. So it's better to be born twice and die once than to be born once and die twice. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And may the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you his peace. In the name of the Prince of all peace, Yeshua. Yevarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha ve'hunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'yasem lecha shalom. Shabbat shalom, guys.